One of the fun things that you can also do with characters in close combat is issue a challenge. So here is how this works. Before any of the fighting subphases occur, the player whose turn it is can declare a challenge. The way that he does this is he chooses one of his characters, if he has more than one of them, and he says, "I challenge you." And what he's really challenging is the characters in the opposing side. And now in this case, the Space Marines have two characters, so they can choose. If the cultists were the ones trying to issue a challenge, they only have one choice, which is their champion. If the person whose turn it is does not issue a challenge, then the other player has an opportunity to issue a challenge. But only one challenge can be issued per close combat. Now, the person who was challenged has two choices. They can accept the challenge, or they can refuse the challenge. If they accept the challenge, they nominate one of their characters, and those two characters are now going to fight, and nobody else can fight them. Often what you're going to want to do is, let's say the commander issued a challenge and the cultist champion accepted, is you'd want to take them out and put them base contact just for fun. If you're in a tournament play, you might not want to do that because moving your models too far could cause difficulties. But in most friendly play, it is fun to pull them out and have them actually fight. These guys will basically fight as another close combat. Even if their initiatives are lower than initiatives of other people, it doesn't matter because nobody else is allowed to attack them. So let's just put them back into close combat so we can see how this is going to work. Now, the other option is to refuse the challenge. In that case, the person who issues the challenge gets to choose one of the characters from the other side. So in this case, let's say the cultist champion issued a challenge and the Space Marine says, "No way." I don't know why they would say that, but let's just say they did. Then the cultist player could say, well, your commander is not allowed to fight in this close combat. So basically, your champion is cowering, or they're hiding from combat. And so two things happen there. First, they cannot strike blows at all. They can still be hurt. They don't actually get moved. And second, you cannot use his leadership when determining close combat results. If you remember in the assaulting video, we talked about leadership in the sense that at the end of the assault, the combat resolution uses their leadership in order to see if they run or not. Well, often independent characters will have higher leadership, in which case the squad gets to use that higher leadership, but not if he refused a challenge. Also, if you have assaulted an independent character or a single character by himself, and you issue a challenge to that character, he cannot refuse that challenge because, well, there's just nowhere to hide. So once you're fighting the challenge, like I said, it's like its own close combat. When you allocate wounds for those two characters fighting, they can only hurt each other. If you do excess wounds, let's say that you do 5 wounds against a character and he only has 1, and he fails all 5 armor saves, well, he only dies, and those extra 4 wounds don't get allocated anywhere else. Another thing that might happen is that the independent character is by himself when he issues this challenge. And if the champion accepts this challenge, that means that the rest of the cultists have nobody to fight. Well, it's okay because they still get to do something. They get to give moral support, or this is the get 'em boss special rule. The way this works is for every 5 models who are adding their moral support, so in this case we have 5, 10, 14, so we only have 2 sets of 5, then the character who's fighting gets to re-roll a failed to hit, or a failed to wound, or a failed armor save. So in this case, he has 2 rolls that he can redo. He could redo 1 of his 2 hits and 1 of his 2 wounds, or he could redo 2 of his 2 hits or 2 of his 2 wounds, or he could save them for his own armor saves, whatever he wants to do. So it's not a complete loss if there's nobody else around. The last thing that we're going to talk about with characters is called a precision strike or a precision blow. Basically, it's quite simple. When a character rolls to hit, whether at ranged or in combat, if they roll a 6, they get to determine which model is hit by their attack. The main exceptions to this are if you're doing a snapshot, or if you're using a weapon that is a blast, or something that does not roll to hit. So if you're overwatching, then there's no precision striking, because you have to roll a 6 just to hit anyways, and so they remove the precision strike from that, for obvious reasons. Now with a precision strike, what you can use this for is to snipe specific things in the opposing unit. Let's say the cultists were firing at the Space Marines, but they really worry about this flamer because they want to charge in afterwards, and a flamer is really good at Overwatch. So the character fires his weapon and he happens to roll a 6. Well, he can allocate his roll against the flamer. For this reason, when you're rolling, you're going to want to roll separately for the character, or you're going to want to use a different color die. Often people will use different color dice in order to pick out which one was the character. This is a good idea if you're rolling different types of weapons as well, because it allows you to roll much faster. The same thing goes for close combat. Instead of a precision shot, it is a precision strike. So if in close combat you roll a 6 to hit, then wounds from the precision strikes are allocated against an engaged model of your choice. It has to be one that's engaged, so not one that's really far back that's not actually in close combat. And then you follow the rest of the rules for wounding and armor saves as well. So that's it. Characters add a very interesting variety or flavor to your games with the challenges, precision strikes, and precision blows, and precision shots, and everything else like that. And also their special rules and their own equipment. They can really make your squad work even better. But you have to understand how they work. So go ahead and leave any comments or questions below about characters, independent characters, or anything else 40k related, and I'll do my best to make a video to answer it for you. Happy wargaming.